Today's news.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
Without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Today's News Talk, The World Today.
For The World Today, this is James O'Neill. Munich's Oktoberfest reopened Wednesday after police cleared the venue following explosions, booby traps, and a house fire tied to a written bomb threat. A 57-year-old suspect, believed to be Martin P., was found dead with a backpack bomb after reportedly setting fire to his home, planting grenade booby traps, and then shooting himself. Forensics also discovered a suspicious item in a burnt truck. 2 people were injured and 1 remains missing. While no motive is confirmed, authorities note heightened protection at German festivals due to past extremist attack attempts. The Community Security Trust recorded 1,978 anti-Semitic incidents in the UK between January and June, the highest ever for the first half of the year and double the 2023 total. Most cases involve abuse, followed by threats, assaults, and vandalism, with London, Manchester, and Yorkshire worst affected. Over half were linked to the Israel-Hamas war, while others involved Holocaust references and conspiracy theories. CST's Dave Rich called the rise unprecedented. Prime Minister Keir Starmer and other officials condemned the surge and vowed stronger protections for Jewish communities. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban accused EU leaders of driving the bloc into war with Russia, citing discussions at the Copenhagen summit on funding Ukraine, accelerating its EU accession, and financing arms deliveries. He vowed Hungary would oppose such measures. Leaders also debated a drone wall after unidentified UAV sightings, though talks yielded little progress. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said Russia posed the main threat, while Moscow called the incidents Ukrainian provocations. Brussels continues to push for stronger backing of Kiev while seeking to reduce dissenting states' veto powers. The U.S. Department of War is considering requiring about 5,000 staff at headquarters to sign non-disclosure agreements and undergo random polygraph tests, the Washington Post reported. The plan, pushed by Deputy Secretary of War Steve Feinberg, would restrict the release of non-public information and mirror rules for journalists seeking Pentagon access. Critics argue the rules could extend beyond security and be used to root out disloyalty to President Trump. The move follows media reports portraying Secretary Pete Hegseth as unstable, which officials dismissed as false. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has attempted to pin the English Channel migrant crisis on Nigel Farage and Brexit, claiming Britain's exit from the EU ended the Dublin returns deal. He branded the boats Farage boats, but critics note crossings began before Brexit, and few migrants were ever returned under the deal. Around 33,000 arrivals have been recorded this year, despite Starmer's smash-the-gang strategy. His government's July one-in, one-out deal with France has returned only 6 migrants. Migration Watch UK accused Starmer of scapegoating Farage and failing to secure borders. A CSA survey shows 86% of French citizens support detaining illegal migrants with deportation orders until removal, following crimes committed by offenders who should have been expelled. Support was highest among National Rally with 94%, while 81% of Macron's Renaissance backers agreed. Julia Hartley-Brewer interviewed former Labour Party donor Sacha Lord, who criticized Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves.
Scripted as well. To me, he's just not a leader. You know, I went to the manifesto launch in Manchester, and the Chancellor stood there and told the room that she was the Chancellor of business, the Chancellor of growth. This is the same Chancellor that increased national insurance on us. And she has done nothing for my sector, the 5th biggest industry in the UK, the 3rd largest employer. And in its current format, and that's important to say that in its current format, I am not supporting this Labour Party.
We'll be back with another news break at the top of the next hour. This has been James O'Neill for The World Today.
The conversation continues.
How ridiculously complicated they've tried to make this global warming argument.
Today's News Talk, The World Today.
Tim Hinchliffe is an independent journo who covers tech and society with perspectives on public and private policies proposed by governments, unelected globalist think tanks, big tech companies, defence departments and intelligence agencies. Tim, thanks for joining us. We're talking about digital ID, and digital ID is, there's many flavours of the month at the moment. We have climate change, or the fiasco around that. We have bad government, always that fiasco, a perpetual one. And we have digital ID, which I've been going on about, and we've been going on about from middle of, or actually the start of TNT radio, because it was looming then. It seems that all the evil or bad players have come together now, and that's the whole thing is just moved to this one central point that the entire world will be under the digital ID. That's a really scary thing, isn't it? Because what it means is that, and I've been banging on about this, that it means that our world has changed forever and there is no coming back. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if we allow it to. This is a plan. Digital ID is a plan in the making for years, even decades. You know, if you go to the Tony Blair, going back for the national cards. But no, right now is a turning point because we're 1 year out from last year's Summit of the Future at the UN. And at the UN, the Summit of the Future, 193 nations signed on to the Pact for the Future, Global Digital Compact, which inside that is a thing to roll out DPI, Digital Public Infrastructure, which is a civic technology stack consisting of three main components: digital ID, fast payment systems, and massive data sharing. We're right in the thick of it right now. This is 1 year later. Governments like the UK and Australia, in the EU, they're pushing for this. All over the world, they're doing this. So right now is the time when it's really accelerating. But we've seen this play out in little stages before, going back to COVID with lockdowns, with contact tracing, vaccine passports, all this, all the same players are behind it. Rockefellers, United Nations, Gates Foundation, World Economic Forum, Club of Rome, you name it, they're there.
Is it too late to change? Are we too? Is it because we often hear, and I used to think too, we have to put up the good fight, whether it's what can I say, you protest or strike, whatever. I actually believe that the good fight, and even though it's needed, I think that these governments and large corporations aren't going to stop. So if they're not going to stop, and if you can't stop the digital ID and the CBDC and all that sort of stuff, which means they know exactly what you're doing, where you're going, they control your life, you have no privacy, no anonymity, no nothing. What then do we do? Because we often hear people say, "We're going to fight." Well, we can't fight. I don't believe we are strong enough. I think we are people like ourselves and all the other independent online video writers, radio, whatever you want. Collectively, we're not even strong enough because we're independent. So we can push a narrative, we can push the truth, but at the end of the day, if these large companies and governments want to do what they want to do, I mean, for example, in Australia, they're about to push forward with a $1.38 trillion wind farm and solar farm expansion in Australia, which basically is just going to destroy all the forest and farmland and so forth. But we're no different than any other country. So if we can't stop it, then what do we do?
Well, knowledge first and foremost is power. So when you say we can have our narratives. My biggest thing is to get as much information out there to as many people as possible. With that, and people smarter than I can come up with other solutions. But for now, with the digital ID thing, they say if right now it's like a smartphone based kind of thing. But so some people are saying ditch the smartphones. But what's coming in the future doesn't even involve that. Like, okay, smartphones for now, but then later it's going to be facial recognition. It's going to be iris scans. It's going to be palm prints. It's going to be whatever. And then in the future, they want it to be under the skin or some kind of brain-computer interface. And the ultimate end goal is just to, apart from control and surveillance, is to completely manipulate and warp your sense of perception and reality. But for right now, UK just said it was mandatory digital ID. We're going to force this compulsory. Blair tried that years back, and it was defeated. I know right now there's a petition going around in the UK for, I don't know how, the last time I saw it was over 2.5 million, maybe 3 million signatures. All that means is there's going to be a debate in Parliament. I don't have trust in governments. local level voting, I'm not sure about. Big level, no, I don't see much change there. So what do we do? Just keep spreading the word, resist. What does that mean? Some people say civil disobedience, go out and march, show what you're going to do. But really, my whole thing is just getting the word out, just letting people know, and just have knowledge is power, and more people who know, and higher, because once you start doing that, the networking effect, someone else in a higher position can influence somebody else, and then maybe put an end to this.
How do you see, I mean, let's go forward 6 months, and I think that's plenty of time for things to start to roll into place. How do you see the planet then? And how do you see the digital ID and all the other tentacles it has connected to it? How do you see that affecting, say, for example, what you and I do?
Well, digital ID is a linchpin to everything. So censorship, online censorship, information. The UN calls it information integrity. The EU is completely on board, other organizations as well. So they talk about, misinformation, wanting to stamp that out, all tied to digital ID and stuff like that. So going forward, they want to conflate misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech all into one thing under information integrity to push their own goals. For us, what do we do about it? No, we keep talking. If they can shut down certain channels, but there's always going to be, I think, new innovations to pop up, and new ways that we can communicate. I'm not talking about smoke signals or pigeons or something, but there's parallel things we can do.
The main players, obviously, they're Bill Gates and Blair and others. Who are the others? And how come they've gotten away with what they're doing?
They do it in very small increments. Even if you go back 20 years, Estonia put in digital ID. 10 years, 13 years ago, 12 years ago, India with their whole Aadhaar digital ID thing, which was a complete. They want to bring it in with CBDCs to control your money. They want to do carbon footprint tracking. They want to, anything to do with climate, conflict, healthcare, vaccine passport stuff. You name it. There's whatever excuse, immigration. But what happened? You can see some kind of uprising. I'm not calling for this, but you see what happened in Nepal just a few weeks ago, where they just shut down social media for a little bit, temporary. There was a protest about corrupt government, but once social media went down, the people went to the streets. They burned it all down. I'm not calling for that, but I'm saying that more people together, united, is stronger than whatever policies are going forward.
Do you think it's time for a revolution? And people have said, "Oh, don't talk about a revolution." But I think it's about time. This is me, and I'm just looking around. I think it doesn't have to be a violent revolution, but revolutions normally have an attachment of some sort of violence to it because of the threat of that revolution. But me personally, I think we need it. It's time for a revolution. What's your thoughts? I mean, it's a pretty severe thing. It's almost at the end of the, throw your hands in the air. What do we do? Oh, let's have a revolution. But it's about true. I think we do need one.
Well, I mean, you asked about who's behind this kind of stuff. You got the Gates Foundation, you got the Rockefellers, you got the UN. A lot of them are. It's almost like an interbreeding kind of thing. They all partner with one another. So there's an appearance that they're really big, and that they have all this support behind them. But really, if you look at the Gates Foundation, who funds the World Health Organization, who funds Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, who funds MOSIP, which is the digital identity platform that a lot of countries in Africa and elsewhere are going with. They're really a small group. So revolution, you look at those countries, especially in Africa, who are just completely on board, especially with the 50 and 5 campaign, which is a Gates UN initiative to bring digital ID and that to 50 countries in 5 years. There's lots of corruption. So if you're going to talk about revolution, you got to start at the most basic level of where you are. I'm in Colombia right now, and the president here, Petro, he's all on board. He went to the UN. He slammed against a lot of thing, but Colombia is bringing in a digital ID system. They want biometric stuff. You know, you got to start kind of local if you're going to think about revolution and to influence people who are on the ground first, I believe.
So how do you stop? But again, I get back to the question: how do we, that people say resist and say no, and knowing how government has acted, and but truly they just roll over people, and that's why I thought TNT was an important because it was different. It was big. It had a collective of some great minds and some great people, and people that they've been banned and all sorts of things, but it was a very strong collective working under one umbrella, and I think and that had some power until it was scuttlebutted from within. But how do again though? How do if for example looking at the UK, which our audience is at the moment, when they bring it in to stop the immigrants, which I've no idea where they got that from, must have been rolling a particular type of tobacco, and said that sounds really good, man. Cheech and Chong, the book on how to smoke, but the to stop immigration is not going to stop immigration. No. It was just it's to stop that asteroid from hitting. London on their head. What asteroid? Oh, it's there. Don't worry about it. This will stop it. It's the same sort of thing. But so, what happens then when they bring it in, and they will bring it in, even though people say don't bring it in, they will bring it in. What do you do? I mean, they're saying first of all, you won't get a job. You won't be able to access your bank account. You can't do a variety of things. You can't survive in the UK. What do you do?
So go back to vaccine passports, vaccine mandates, things like that. What you do is, resist and wait it out. Actually, that's kind of what I did. So, when the government here in Colombia said that, you can't come into the country if you're a foreigner, if you can't show proof of vaccination. So I didn't leave the country. I stayed where I was. I hunkered down. And what happened is that I couldn't go back to the United States to see my family for a Christmas, which happened to be, their sacrifice, because this happened to be the last. My 14-year-old nephew was dying of leukemia, and it would have been my last chance to see him, and I wouldn't have been able to do that. So there is sacrifice, and after a while, a lot of people were fired, but a lot of people took the jab because they wanted to travel, wanted to keep their jobs or whatever. But after a while, that went away. With enough, I don't know if it was resistance that went away or just enough information came out about jabs, about the efficacy, about transmission, about government overreach, that finally they caved and said, okay, no more of that. So again, when I go back to talking about, getting information out there, it's as long as, there's no more justification. There's never been a justification for this. Everything the governments and NGOs are saying is a lie. And when you can prove that demonstrably, especially if you got whistleblowers, my God, that'd be amazing, just to blow it all up. That's the trajectory we're on, is total control and surveillance. But anything can happen. I have hope and faith that anything can happen. Someone's going to just blow, not one person or a group or one event or multiple, but this can just blow it all up and just shut it all down. You're
an observer that takes every detail of what's happening in the world, and that's one of your great credits, because you understand, or you try to understand the mechanisms of insanity, which is what governments are. And I don't know how successful you've been at the end of the day, but they are insane. But if you look at, I have to bring up Donald Trump. Now, and we do know this time the MAGA base is very upset at him, because his comments the other day when he welcomed Pfizer with its $70 billion investment with mRNA and other technologies. Can you just tell me if I am going nuts? Wasn't it just a week or two beforehand he was so angry that he wasn't given the full information from Pfizer on the damage the inverted commas vaccines could and would do? And just part B of that one, tell me if I'm wrong, isn't his Make America Healthy Again advocate, Robert Kennedy Jr., isn't he against these vaccines? And yet we have Donald Trump saying what a great man Albert was from Pfizer, and
No,
what a
yeah.
great company. I mean, tell me if I'm nuts, but surely that alone says that that the world is in a worse situation in many ways than it was with Biden, and I never thought I would ever say that.
No, in a different way, yeah, because Trump is surrounded with nothing but technocrats. And people pushing these other agendas. So you mentioned Borla and Pfizer, which is something he was questioning just a little bit ago. RFK Jr. was railing against them for all the time, since whenever. But then if you go farther than that, look at Larry Ellison of Oracle, whole company back CIA fronted. Look at Peter Thiel, CIA, InQtel. Look at everybody else who's all around big tech. They're all started with funding from DARPA, from the intelligence community, from NSF, you name it. And now they're all getting into it. So even Larry Ellison funding Tony Blair's institute, which is all about digital ID, and Oracle digital ID. Everyone around Trump, like even Moderna was a DARPA project. Yes. So these things, it's almost like, yeah. I said I think on your on TNT earlier on another show that if Trump gets elected, if he were to be elected, I think there might be some initial prosperity economically for the United States,
I
but
recall
the
that.
technocratic agenda is going to be off, especially with JD Vance, Peter Thiel, Musk, all them. Yeah, Ellison.
But here's the other. I mean, first of all, I cannot understand his about turn. I mean, Pfizer or they killed many people. And they killed. I mean, just using the VAERS report or the data from VAERS in the US, which is about 1% of the actuality. 1%. They had 38,000 deaths because of the vaccines. And yet we have Donald Trump saying what a great man Buller is, and what a great company Pfizer is, and how fantastic the vaccines are. Then you have, on the other hand, you look at and you mentioned Larry Ellison. He, Oracle, and the others. I've forgotten the name of the companies, but they actually own TikTok. Now they were worried about China siphoning information or the data from its users. At this stage, it would only be for commercial purposes, because I don't see what a 4-year-old boy or a 6-year-old girl would have for a military advantage. So it's all commercial, and they were very worried that China was siphoning this information. So what we do, we give it to Larry Ellison, who's the major funder or donor to the IDF, and of course he's going to provide that data to Israel. Now, Israel don't want any of this data for commercial purposes. They're not big enough, but they do want it to either control or for a military advantage. And surely that is a greater evil than another country siphoning the information, which is not good, by the way, in any case, but siphoning the information for commercial purposes only. So, I mean, I don't understand Donald Trump, and I never thought I would say it, but I think he is a disaster, and I think that the US is going down this rabbit hole, and they're all being led, clapping their hands, drinking the Kool-Aid and walking off the cliff. It's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yes. Well, first of all, never trust a politician. I mean, that's got to be standard. Like no matter what they say, it's going to be something different. They'll, even if they had the best intentions going in, they go behind a closed door, a curtain, and then get told what's going on. So yeah, a complete about face. And then again, you talk about IDF, Ellison, TikTok. It's one intelligence community versus another. And I think where this whole digital ID thing is going, why the UN is so hell bent on it, all these organizations, is for a world government in the end. A world government with a world intelligence agency. We've already got the Five Eyes. We know that Mossad works with CIA. We know that so you get all these FSB from Russia. Get all those together into a world intelligence agency, world government, world currency with central bank digital currencies, all tied to digital ID. And you get the world army, police, military, thought police, whatsoever. That's the plan. That's where we're going.
What's the timeline in your mind? I think it's. I think they have these building blocks in Australia. Look at Europe, the control they will have over the internet in Australia we have the government which is in love with Starmer, and that is a pity without being stupid. And then we have the opposition, which is in love with the government. And truly not a good opposition. We had the shadow communications minister, and she was saying that government needs to control the internet to stop all this misinformation and all these lies. It's them that are lying. They're the ones that are providing the mis or disinformation. And all it is a way of shutting you down. So I look at the timeline. The timeline, I look at 6 months at the most, because I think in Australia, from December, they're going to control, within a couple of weeks, they will have control on the internet. If you look at Europe, you've got von der Leyen and the others doing what they can to control free speech. And free speech is a thing of the past in Europe. Look at the UK; it's the same thing. You cannot criticise Islam, but they can criticise Christianity. And if you criticise Islam, you'll go to jail. But if you criticise Christianity, good on you. So I see the whole process, this moving monolith, just rolling over freedoms of speech, of movement, of whatever, CBDCs, of why you spend money, where you spend it, what you do, how you live. That's just being rolled over, and I don't see anything stopping it at this stage. And I don't mean to be a gloom and doom man, but and when Hovore Moritz used to work with us, Hovore and I used to talk about that train or that light at the end of the tunnel, and both of us were convinced it was a train coming towards us, not a light. Yeah. So I'm saying we're looking at 6 months. Okay. What's your views on that?
So there's a couple different timelines I see. So for digital ID and digital public infrastructure that's being rolled out, that is in line with the 2030 timeline. But the thing is, in a lot of these countries, developing ones, they need to get electricity first before they get everyone online. So that's a little hamper to it. That was part of the Pact of the Future, some of the future. But what's really going to make everything automated and the full control mechanism to know everything about you, so that they know you better than you know yourself and are therefore more manipulable, controllable, and all that, is when they can finally build the AI data centers. Those are being built by every single governments, big tech companies, because and these data centers are the size. I was just listening to the World Economic Forum Sustainable Development Impact Summit meeting just last week. Some of these data centers are like over this. Would take up a big chunk of the size of Manhattan, and what they require is tons of water, tons of energy. Talking like small micro nuclear modules energy to power these things. And Larry Fink has been railing on about that as well. So yeah, the mechanisms for digital ID and that control is already going on. So you can prevent things, you can bring in the social credits, whatever. But the next step after that is adding a layer of AI to it to interpret everything, to do pre-crime thought police kind of stuff, and with deepfakes, it just completely manipulate you that way. That's on a longer time scale. But in the media, you said 6 months. Yeah, it's been 1 year since Pact of the Future, some of the future, and it's already been rolling out like crazy. UK, Australia, EU's doing it, all other places. So yeah, it's coming really quick.
And just off a left turn here, as we are running out of time, but. Donald Trump is just I truly think the guy's nuts, by the way. I think he's lost, and I think he is embarrassing all those older folk at his age, and he should just go and go away. I don't know who you would replace him with, though, but his next move, or his current move, is with Ukraine. I want to talk to you about that for a second. First of all, it was peace. I'll have peace within 24 hours. Putin and I are just like that. Blah, 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 blah. We have now that he is considering supplying Ukraine with long-range missiles. Not NATO, the US is considering. He's also using their intelligence facilities to help Ukraine determine which targets to to attack or to shoot missiles at in Russia. Now, if I was Putin, I'd be pretty well pissed off over all this sort of stuff because this guy is being the schoolyard bully all over again. Where do you think this will head off to? Because I'm a little fearful that if he supplies Ukraine with long-range missiles and the intelligence where to shoot them, if I was Putin, I'd say, the war has now moved out of Ukraine. I need to escalate it and tell them to stop it, because if they don't, it will move out of Ukraine. What's your thoughts?
Trump is just continuing what every other nation in the previous administration was doing in supplying, funds and weapons and things like that. This is going a step further. He said providing intelligence, which I think they probably were doing that before as well. But I look at it, geopolitical stuff. That's a different realm. I look at it, through the technology stuff. I know that Eric Schmidt, the ex Google CEO guy, and is in the government for AI and all that. He was saying to study the Ukraine war because of all it's a test bed for the drones, the kamikaze drones on these swarms of thousands of drones going at one another. So when it comes to geopolitical conflicts between the United States and Russia, yeah, dude, Putin's pissed. I mean, even just a few weeks back, when Zelensky of Ukraine was in the White House and he got that little berating, you look back, it's just all theater. So is this right now? Is this just theater? It's just talk, or it's moves and counter moves, and I don't see nuclear war is not off the table, but I don't think any nation wants that. There's tit for tat, but really, I can't answer that question fully. I'm afraid, just because I
it's a scary world, and I often say this. I thought when Trump got into power, Jen and I were talking. We thought, might be a little quiet for a while. It's quite the opposite. The world was spinning faster and faster. I think I'm just wondering about that alien spacecraft they've been talking about coming towards, travelling at I think 150,000 k's an hour or something, hurtling towards Earth. If they knew what was happening at the moment, do you think they would pay us a visit or just keep going?
I've long looked into the UFO stuff and UAP, and it fascinates me. But in reality, I think the best what they're going to do is roll out something that's already technology that we have that's been kept hidden, or it's just going to be a complete AI deepfake thing to try to garner kind of like a 9/11 moment. Like, oh, we need to get all in defense against this one thing. So I figured, that's the sci-fi stuff. It's Independence Day. Bring the world together to fight this imaginary thing. It could be aliens, it could be COVID, it could be the climate, carbon dioxide, whatever.
Yeah, Jen said to me the other day, she said, "What's wrong with you?" She said, "All you do is watch doomsday films or aliens." And I said, "I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just like half the world. We're intrigued to see what happens if the world finishes, or intrigued to see what happens if we're visited by my favourite Martian with 10 arms. Who knows?" Tim, it's a pleasure chatting with you. I appreciate your time very much. If somebody wants to find out more about you, how do they do that?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've had a blast as well. So the website is social.co, and then on X, Twitter, you can find me at Tim Hinchliffe or at the Sociable. Those are the main channels.
Tim Hinchliffe, thank you so much for your time. Invitation is out there. I'd love to do this more often, and it's been way too long too. And thank you for your kind words too, by the way, for TNT Radio. It was something that was unique. Tim Hinchliffe, independent journalist here on The World Today.
With your help, we can continue to fight for freedom, reach new audiences, and bring important information to the public free of charge. This is not possible without your generosity. Join our quest for the truth and our freedom and donate today, telling it as it is. This is today's News Talk, The World Today.
Did you know they plan to build over 3,000 wind turbines on Queensland's Great Dividing Range? Over 3,700 kilometres of new haulage roads will carve through old growth forest. Destroying forests for industrial renewables makes no sense. It doesn't have to be this way. The intact biodiverse ranges of Queensland are no place for renewables. Take 2 minutes to learn the truth about the destruction they cause. Go to rainforestreserves.org.au.
So I really like the Subaru. Very manly.
It is manly. My mom's drive one.
Well, but before I sign anything, I have to ask, what's the safety rating on that beast?
No worries. It's really important to ask good questions about big life decisions. This vehicle is top rated in safety.
Great. Final question. The fuzzy dice in the rearview mirror included?
I'll throw them in. Just for you, pal.
Deal. Excuse me. I heard a variety of these Altoids have been recalled. Are these good to go?
We got rid of all the bad ones last week, so they're good.
Well, sorry to bother you.
No bother at all, man. It's really, really important to be really aware of what you put into your body.
Hey, that's what I always say.
Me too.
Up top! Well, see you later.
Well, Tony, everything came back normal. You are as healthy as a healthy black man. Okay, now let's inject you with this vaccine and you'll...
Whoa. What's that?
Oh, it's just a normal vaccine. That's nothing to worry about. If you just roll up your sleeve, we'll just get this show on the road.
Whoa, wait. Can we talk about this? Look, I'm not some anti-science weirdo. I just like to ask questions and know what's going into my body.
Ask questions?
Yeah.
You're not one of those crazy conspiracy theorists that I read about online, right?
Oh, no. Look, I ask questions about everything that pertains to my health and safety. Maybe I'll get the jab, but I just like to know what's in it. Has it been peer-reviewed?
Hello, this is Dr. Lewis. I need immediate backup in exam room 7. We've got a conspiracy theorist in here. He's armed with an open mind and he's very dangerous. Help! He's really fast! Just asking questions. Tony! Time for your shot, Tony! Tony! I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I just wanted to do more research on that. And when Trump was Wait. You're skeptical because of Trump's involvement?
I mean, well, no, Trump, no, MAGA.
What? I totally understand that. Why didn't you lead with it? Oh, false alarm. False alarm, everybody, false alarm. Look, I get it, okay. Let's just get you down to bill pay and get you on out of here. Look, I'm so sorry about all of that prison break, running down the hallway thing, but you know what? You can't be too careful. There's a lot of crazies out there. A lot of crazies.
Okay, so I just go that way and make a right?
Yeah, that's what you, yeah. Have a good day.
Thanks, Doc. Bye.
It would be funny if it weren't true, but the truth is scary because the truth is that all vaccines carry with them significant health risks that your doctor won't tell you about.
Not the station for people who label truth as misinformation just because they don't like it.
For facts and truth.
Today's News Talk. The World Today.
And back. Nice to have your company. Short little piece of insanity there. But there is a message there, I think.
Hey, halt! This is a Brit card checkpoint. Present identification for labour allocation.
I've got me card.
Brit card valid.
Proceed.
Next.
Please,
relocation.
You know what happened last week, Rodders? They shut me down. Council fella turns up, flashes a badge, all because I wouldn't take one of them flaming Brit cards.
You got closed for that?
I said, cash only, pal. He says, no Brit card, no light.
You will recognise Palestine. Recognise it immediately or you will be exterminated.
All right, I recognise Palestine, I swear. Just don't hurt anyone.
Affirmation received. Identify yourself. Present Brit card for service.
Sorry? A Brit card? I've just got a bank card.
Brit card required. Proof of Britishness mandatory to procure. Sir, no Brit card to board this bus. Present it
I haven't got one.
Look, I've got cash.
Can't you just take
Payment
that?
in currency is not accepted. You are not compliant.
Wait!
I'll get off all right. Just let me produce your Brit card.
My what?
You are consuming without authorization. Show the Brit card or face sanction.
I don't know what that is.
Product vaporization.
I could stay like this is forever.
Violated Brit card! Intrusion detected!
What the? Is that a Dalek?
Human, you have shared an opinion on social media. Present your Brit card.
My what? I don't have one.
Unacceptable. You will be vaporized. Now present your Brit card.
I don't have one, mate.
Non-compliance exterminate.
My chicken!
I was just thinking we played a clip there on and it was just pointing out that we need to make sure, we need to ask questions about what they're putting in our bodies. And a lot of people didn't. And it just showed you how crazy the medical profession can be. They would tell you anything. Then we played another thing of Doctor Who and all the Daleks for the Brit card or dash the digital ID. What's your views on the digital ID? And secondly, how important, back to that first clip, how important is it that we actually know what we're putting into our bodies, and can we actually trust medical institutions, our doctor and government in being absolutely honest with what goes into our bodies?
No, these days we can't trust government or doctors. There's been a complete brainwashing of doctors over the last probably 30, 40 years. These days, the doctors haven't got a clue where the drug comes from. A lot of shortages about now because the supply chain's got so many issues. And basically, doctors got a MIMS, the medical thing of specialty products, and you go in with a problem and they'll open the book. And this is true. I mean, I'm not just saying this because I've experienced it myself. And they'll pick the drug, they'll look on the internet, oh yeah, that looks as if it'll deal with your symptoms, and off you go. But so the problem is, I don't think doctors are doing this purposely. It's the fact that the big pharma companies have been so successful at sales and marketing of their products that to doctors, it has been a long-term brainwashing operation. And it is the big pharma companies, the Pfizers, the GSKs, the Sanofis, you name them. They wouldn't call it brainwashing. They'd have a different word for it. But it's basically sales and marketing. And the key thing with anything going into your body, I mean, if it was a cake you were eating and suddenly someone included a rogue ingredient in there, you wouldn't talk about science or anything like that. You'd talk about what was in the supply chain that made that product, and let's look at that supply chain and let's see what's going wrong. And that's not what's happened. The people in the regulatory authorities, particularly the MHRA, should have been investigating the supply chain for these products. And we know the supply chain for the AstraZeneca product was based in Oxfordshire, in Cowley, with a company called Oxford Biomedica, who developed and made the AstraZeneca vaccine. And the thing I should say, we talk about mRNA these days. It's not just mRNA, it's gene-modified cell therapy using CRISPR. CRISPR is a way of making small strips of DNA that we are now calling the spike protein that you inject into someone's body, and in theory, it's going to act like a vaccine. Now, that theory just is wrong, and we know that from the last 4 years and the amount of serious adverse event data that has come out. So, when we talk about mRNA factories being built in the UK or anywhere, they are based on not just mRNA, but lentiviral vectors, and all they are is putting a small strip of DNA into a person's body. And why wouldn't you question any company that's making something that is a small strip of DNA from an animal cell, could be monkeys, could be some other animal cells, without saying, well, what's that going to do to my body? And we know what it's done to people's body. I'm on Facebook, and that's pretty much uncensored these days. I can put anything on there, and no one says anything. And I look at the vaccine injured, the people who are still trying to get compensation from the government for particularly the AstraZeneca vaccine, but also the Pfizer, the Moderna vaccines, and nothing's happening. So that's I don't know if that helps or not, but that's my sort of initial thinking.
Yeah, it actually does help you. As always, you're very succinct. Just a little interruption here. We've had issues all week with our stream to our. It's been buffering and doing all sorts of terrible things to our website. But I can tell everybody that we are installing another player that actually works. So just bear with us just today, because fingers crossed next week it will change. And but it's if it's driving our audience nuts, and I can tell just a bloke who asks questions, for example, Johnny Dollar, if it's driving you nuts, you should sit in my shoes. It is driving us absolutely insane. It's been a horrid week. I think as bad as that, I saw the Moderna announcement this week about the mRNA production facility in the UK. Tell us about that, because my first instincts are, do I want to vomit or not?
Oh God, this is a complete joke. The UK government built the plant in about 2008, or they started building it. I'm not quite sure when it was complete. It was called the Vaccine Manufacturing Innovation Centre, and I thought at the time, by golly, what are they doing here? And included in that was Oxford Biomedica. They were a large part of the project, a company that makes gene-modified cell therapies, and also the Cell and Gene Therapy Catapult, which again is a UK government-funded organisation with the brief of establishing gene therapy in the UK to make the UK number one in the world, which is a complete nonsense. So in 2022, they sold it to Catalent. Catalent is a contract development and manufacturing organization, US owned, based in the US. So it cost £200 million of taxpayer money to build it, and they sold it to Catalent for £150 million, apparently. Now, we believe that, as far as my research using Perplexity AI, I'm not a big fan of AI, but Perplexity is well regarded by my publisher Wiley, and it tells me it thinks Catalent still owns this facility. Now, what we also need to know is that Catalent made the Moderna finished product, what they call the fill finish product, the product that was that took the liquid gene therapy, put it into vials, put a cap on it, and froze it down for Pfizer, for Moderna, down to minus 20 degrees C. So they had a hugely strong relationship, and I've still got the press announcement where where Moderna announced that it was in this relationship with Catalent. And when it was sold, there was a big protest in Oxfordshire near Harwell, where the site is. People saying, "Look, we want jobs made with taxpayer money. We don't want to see it privatized." But it was privatized, but there's no evidence that it's owned by Moderna. In fact, I believe it's still owned by Catalent. People would need to validate that, and I'm more than happy for people to ask me to provide the evidence that I've got. But this demonstrates the lack of transparency in what's going on with these companies that are making these vaccines. And the last thing to say is that Novo Nordisk's company, Novo Holdings, bought Catalent about 6 months ago or 9 months ago. So, the whole thing is a pig's breakfast, really.
Do you see I won't say mass exodus, because it's not going to happen, but do you see pharmaceutical companies leaving the UK?
Oh yeah, well, we're seeing that now. That's all down to Donald Trump and his his basically request that companies onshore to the US. Now, the whole of the Western world offshored to the east 40 years ago, and they've been there ever since. So the UK would should really be calling for onshoring as well, but obviously because the US is the power country in the West, Donald Trump is calling these companies to go back, and the UK is getting hammered really because even the UK-based companies are promising investment in the US. Now, the thing is, the deal is that these companies who return to the US, if they've broken ground to build a facility, this is the perception that they won't get the 100% tariff that Donald Trump is talking about. So the whole of Big Pharma is aiming now to break ground in the US. They won't be thinking of anything after that. But when you build a plant, you've got to go through 4 phases of validation: design qualification, installation qualification, operational qualification, and process qualification. And each of those stages have to have a very detailed master validation protocol. So first of all, you have to prove that the design will produce the product that you're going to make. That validates the fact that the design works. And that takes a couple of years, probably. And then the next stage, the installation qualification, when all the equipment and the stuff is installed, you have to prove that it can produce the product to a certain technical level. And then you go through operational qualification, where you operate all the equipment, it looks okay. And then the last stage is process qualification. And when you've been through all that, then you can produce the product according to the regulators, and the regulators require that. That's going to take about 10 years for any plant. So these companies that are and they've never made a drug before. The Pfizer bought Wyeth in 2009, I think it was, a biologics company, and that's their biologics. Wyeth made the first batches of the vaccine. Now, Pfizer will not have a clue, the management will not have a clue how to build a plant or anything. They're relying on companies they've bought. And previous to that, Pfizer bought a company called Warner Lambert because they had the statin called Lipitor. Now, Lipitor is one of the world's biggest selling drugs, $100 billion plus. And the jury's out even now as to whether statins actually do you good or do you harm. That's well known. And, it's not just me saying that. There's so many experts saying that. So we have these behaviors where the big pharma companies are buying companies they don't really understand, and then they're trying to manage them. It's not working. And this whole thing with restoring the US is going to be a nightmare because still all the starting materials, the raw materials, and the intermediates, even the active ingredients, aren't made in the US. They're made in China and India, and they're not going to want to let them go. So when it comes to transfer the technology of making those starting materials, etc., China aren't going to just say, "Oh yeah, you can ship it back to the US." Because the regulations are so tight, they need the Chinese company, the company based in China, to cooperate with the US to be able to do it, because they won't have any of the data or the data on what's how the product is made, etc. So in reality, this is never going to work. So let's watch this space.
Look, I've just got to ask you, because we'll go over it a little bit, but we did we had a long conversation with the others prior to this, and then I stuffed things up quite happily. Can you just tell me though your thoughts on Donald Trump and Albert? What's his last name? Bula. And Albert was very excited that Donald Trump said that he, along with Pfizer, did a magnificent job for COVID, and that they're a magnificent company, and that he's rewarded them with all sorts of endorsements. Why would Donald Trump do an about turn? I mean, if I recall, just a little while ago, he was not happy. He's going to find out because Pfizer didn't tell him the full story. Wasn't told the full story, the damages and blah, blah, blah. And then a few weeks later, we have this love fest between Albert and Don. And Donald is supporting Pfizer and saying that they're a magnificent company. Does this worry you?
It doesn't worry me, no, because Robert Kennedy Jr. is in charge of the HHS. And I saw a picture of Donald Trump in that love affair thing. I looked at RFK Jr.'s face, and
it was terrible, wasn't it?
It was pains. So someone on Facebook yesterday said, I think Trump is trolling him. I'm still not sure what a troll is, but I do think in some way they're setting up Albert Bourla to have a fall. Now, I couldn't say that, but what I do know is that Donald Trump he knows of Warp Speed. He was advised by a 30-year GSK executive who's been developing vaccines in Africa and all over the world for many years, Monsef Slaoui, and he was advising on Warp Speed. He was also on the Lonza board. He was on the Moderna board. And I think Donald Trump listens to people. He's just got to listen to the right people. And at that time, he listened to the wrong person. And that guy actually now has got him in a position where he can't say one thing, I did Warp Speed, and the other thing is I don't believe the vaccines, because he's going to look as if he's contradicting himself. So, but I do think underneath with Robert Kennedy Jr. and some of the other people, the people at FDA now, Vinay Prasad, who was very much against the vaccines, he's now head of the Center for Biological Evaluation and Research. I'd like to think that underneath all this, people are doing the right things. And I've said previously, the FDA now are a much stronger force for good in the world. In fact, the only force for good in the world of regulation, because the European Medicines Agency is in Gates's pocket, and certainly MHRA is in Gates's pocket. So we do need the FDA to take a strong stand. And firing Peter Marks, which is what Robert Kennedy Jr. did, it must have been with Trump's approval. That was the key to it, because he was the guy who was planted in there in about 2014 in FDA to wave through all these biologics. So I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah, it does. But I'm worried, and I think our audience is too. That Donald Trump is.
I am as well, man. I mean, I'm saying this because it would make sense, but you're never quite sure. And as your previous guest said, you never trust a politician. So.
Yeah. Well, somebody has suggested that there's a co-branding exercise. Now, I find that hard to believe, but it's coming from a reputable source. If there is a co-branding exercise, I don't know how they would initiate that, but if there was, he'd be no different than any other president. It's amazing how comfortable they or members of the cabinet or other politicians, how much money they can save over a couple of years. And Donald Trump, the bottom line is he's a businessman, and he's always going to look for that big, beautiful deal. So who knows? But I think the MAGA base is not very happy with him. To support and pat Albert on the back and to say lovely things about him and what a magnificent company. And they're responsible for many, many, many hundreds of thousands of deaths. And I think this guy, Joe Biden's looking pretty normal compared to Donald Trump sometimes.
Can I just say, Mike, aside from Donald Trump, 90% of, this is official figure, 90% of drugs in the US are generic. They're out of patent. So what Big Pharma sell are the gene therapies and the drugs for rare diseases. So America is going to keep on having its drugs which are not branded. So there is a very bleak future for branded drugs as Big Pharma have got them now, because these gene therapies are last chance saloon for Big Pharma, and the whole of the industry. I looked at it on LinkedIn. They are. It's like the gold rush. It's a feeding frenzy, But it's last chance freedom frenzy because actually they are dangerous. And I know for sure that these are going to go on killing people if they go on developing these drugs. And the drugs that people really need for Medicaid and all these things, they're not branded. And so this whole co-branding argument, I don't buy at all.
No, we need to look more into that one, but it's. I mean, I think I saw, and I think the whole world saw the look on RFK Jr.'s face. I'm just wondering whether he's been threatened that one night he'll wake up and he'll hear this noise going down his hallway, and it'll be Donald's hairpiece, a bit like a Chucky. Anyway, or maybe that's Robert Kennedy Jr. crawling along Donald Trump's hallway. Who knows? Look, always a pleasure chatting with you. It's appreciated. We'll do it again next week. If somebody wants to find out more about you, Hedley, how do they do that?
The best thing is my Substack, Inside Pharma, Hedley Rees at Substack.com, is it?
I don't
because
know.
I've actually, it's the cheapest you can get it, but I've actually made them all paid now because I've spent 4 years making them free, and I've gone from about 20 subscribers to 7,500 subscribers. But I'm down to 107 paid subscribers. So I've said to hell with it. I need money to do the things I want to do. So if no one takes a paid subscribership out, that's fine. But there's too many people on Substack basically becoming millionaires on stuff they don't particularly understand, and I need to make a living myself.
Yeah, look, those that are making all those millions, you will do it. You'll be one of those. You'll be another. I was going to say Bill Gates of Substack, but you'll be a very wealthy person. But all your writings and your knowledge and your insight is second to none. So, what do they say about quality? The cream rises to the top. But in the meantime, enjoy poverty.
Oh, that's very kind of you, mate. Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment. You take care, my friend.
Take care, my friend. That's Hedley Rees, just a brilliant person. I love our Friday night or Friday morning chats, and to our chatter boxes, few as there are at the moment, to Johnny Dollar and Just a Bloke Who Asks Questions. Who else do we have here? Got to say hello to a whole bunch. There we are. There we are. Oh, Johnny Dollar again. Johnny Dollar, and Johnny Dollar. Grumpy old woman is normally there. She's not there. She's just grumpy. I apologise again, by the way, for the one day I'm going to write a book. It's an incredible book. And then I'll get jailed probably. I'll do it after I die. How's that? I come back from the dead. And maybe I'm dead now. Anyway, thank you very much. We got through this week. There are some little changes. I mean, there's nothing worse, is there, than you? I mean, I'm just talking out of school here, but Johnny and Just a Bloke and Grumpy Old Woman and Little Miss L. I can see the exhaustion in your writing. To keep going back there, and you want to hear it, you can't hear it. And I mean, my wife, she throws it on driving home from work, and by the time she gets home, she looks like Yahoo Serious. It's like, how was your day, dear? And can't do it. It just won't work. So our webmaster is no more. He's gone. And we'll just see if we can fix it up because it's just simply not good enough. And I do apologise. But what can you do? You just got to keep on going, keep on keeping on, as they say. Okay, that's it. Thank you to everybody. Appreciate your help, support, love. Have a great weekend. This is The World Today.